Hey guys, so I'm just trying to get away from marrowing and gonna start a new patch design, so I figured I'd digitize it, and while I'm doing that, might as well go live with it. So if you're following along, feel free to ask questions about it, any type of questions you'd really have. Just a little background on this patch. So I get a submission from a client who wanted me to embroider this for him. This was the actual image that he sent me, and I normally I convert it into a vector first, because when I put it on my website I always include the vector on the website. So I went ahead and I just went into Illustrator and then added the vector into it. So he'll also get this as well, in case they wanted to make like stickers out of it. That's just kind of the way I run my company. It's not very profitable in the long run, but doesn't really bother me. This is more of a hobby for me. It's not the proper way to look at it, especially when it's a business, but it's the way I do things. So first thing I actually notice with my vector here is that it is not the right size that I want. You can see that there's quite a bit of gap in this spot here. So if I were to resize it to the size that I want, it's not going to be the correct size. But I do see that the left and right ones are the right size. So if I resize the width with the ratio locked, should do it properly. So I'm going to be doing a 3.75 inch patch, and that should be good. Now if I hit M to measure, you can see that's pretty close. So the first step I always do when digitizing a patch is I always start with the border. Now you're not going to start with the border when you actually do digitize your patch or run the patch, but I do that so that I can see exactly where I'm going to be able to hide some of the underlay or my runs. So now I got my patch set to, I'm going to offset it 0.75, and then because I'm going to be marrowing these, I need to set the width to 4 millimeters, because that is what my marrow machine is set to. And then you can kind of start to see that some of this text is going to get clipped underneath the marrowed border. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring the patch in until I can see all of the text and all of the details. So now I got the patch background set. I'm going to hit K to lock it. And I'm going to set my border color. Not that it really matters at this point. So now that I have the patch kind of laid out, I'm going to visualize exactly how I'm going to do this. So I could use, there's a couple different ways I could do this. I could do 100% embroidered, where all of the green is going to be embroidered, the yellow, the red, but that's going to be, I'm going to call it expensive, but it's going to be time consuming more so instead of expensive. Time is your biggest expense in embroidery next to your machine, but that's at least what I found. I could also do a green polyester twill with a yellow fill, or I could do the reverse, a green fill with a yellow polyester twill. That's actually what I'm going to do. I already bought the material. I have it rolled up, so I'm going to be doing a yellow fill. So I'm going to leave this yellow blank, and I'm just going to do the green fill. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm probably just going to do a, we'll see about a circle. And I'm going to make sure that it is going to be exactly centered on my design. I'm actually going to center the rest of my design. So I got to unlock the background. That's good. Okay, so background is centered, border and this fill are centered. So I'm going to go ahead, fill that. I'm going to turn stitches off. And then I am going to digitize a hole. I'm just going to go around. So now I have the center cut out. I'm going to select that. Now, I don't typically set my colors exactly how they're going to be when I'm digitizing the patch. That would take me a lot longer, so I just pretty much find a color that's pretty close to it, and then that's kind of what I stick it to. So there's that. Now I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to do a digitize open shape with a black border, or black color I mean, and I'm just going to follow around. I'm going to do this inside stitch because I can do a couple of runs in here if I have to. And then I'm also going to continue through. Let's see. I don't think I need to turn this into a single run. What is my length? Yeah, I can just continue through. And then hide it right there. So now I have this shape. Oops. And that one, I'm gonna set it to a satin. And obviously that's going to be a little bit too big. So we're going to go ahead, we'll check a 1 to a 1.25. So the way that is set up is it's going to do this shape, and then once it gets here, it's going to just quickly run over here, and then it's going to finish the satin fill. So now I'm actually going to go hide that, and I can group this. I'll hide him. And now the next thing I'm going to tackle is going to be the radiological sign here. So I'm just going to come in here. Now granted, I'm not planning any of this out, or I didn't do any like pre-planning, so this is all exactly how I would be digitizing it normally. So in Hatch and most other software, if you hold Control, you can make it into a straight line that like clicks at specific angles. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. That is that shape. So now I'm going to convert it to red, make it a fill. Then I'm actually going to duplicate it with Control D, outline, and set it to a satin stitch. And I'm probably going to end up splitting this because I don't need the satin stitch underneath the head. That's just going to make it really thick under there. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I have the black selected. I'm going to hide the stitches with S, edit objects, and hit the knife tool. And I'm just going to cut this corner out, and then I can select it. And there we go. So there's that. And I'm going to do the center one. So the way this is, it's really hidden under here. So technically I could do this all in one shape, but I'm not going to because that's wasting a lot of thread. It's just being covered. It's just going to make it really dense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of curve it and then run to the next fill here and then run to the next one. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. That's that shape. And then I'm a big advocate for using keyboard shortcuts, so that's why you won't see me go over there and click buttons, because I have the keyboard shortcuts figured out. But except for that one. I don't actually know what that one is. But yeah, I highly recommend you spend a few minutes in whatever software you're doing or using and figuring out what keyboard shortcuts are, because you can save a lot of time overall. And so I'm going to fill in that way. I'm going to move that one just a little bit away from the border. There we go. So now I'm just going to select all of these guys. I'm going to make them solid fills. And that's pretty much what it's going to look like underneath the little jet character. So then I will now digitize the black border around the center part. So I'm going to select a open shape, and I'm just going to follow exactly on my line. I'm going to stop it right there. I'm actually going to go a little bit past. And then I'm going to do a run down to here. That way. Okay, so I have a couple of different segments here, the same way I did the inner border. So I have shape 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the first one and the third one and the fifth one are all going to be satin stitches at 1 millimeter. And just like that, see, if I were to make these ones a satin stitch as well, just like in every other spot, that's just going to get really thick there, and after time, a couple more layers, you'll just start threading or shredding your threads. So I'm just going to leave those as runs. And then I'm going to do this one as well. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to duplicate him, I'm going to mirror it, and then because I centered my design, I should be able to remove the negative symbol and place it over there. And that should be symmetrical. And then I'm just going to duplicate it again, outline, black run, black satin, and I think I did a 1. Yep. Other things I can do is to make this look a little bit more interesting is I can do a Florentine effect, and I can make it look a little bit more curved. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that again, just so that I have the same fill pattern. And move that up here. So just resequenced it so that I have, that actually needs to become red, so that I have all my reds in the same spot. So we're going to go ahead and, did I not do a run? I did. So now I'm going to do a little bit of pathing. So I'm going to select this red. I'm going to hold Control, select that one, then this one, that one, that one, that one, and then that one. And then in Hatch, if I do sequence by selection order, it will now stitch out. If I run this, okay, next color. You can see it's doing that one, that one, that one, that one, and then that one. So that's how you can save yourself on some trims. You can make your design go a lot faster. Did I not? Why did that one not go red? There we go. Okay, so that part is done. Like I said before, I might carve this out. Most likely I'm not going to. So the next thing I'm going to do is probably going to be the jet, just because that's the next easier one to do. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'll leave that on. So I got to look at the jet and figure out exactly what my bottommost layer is going to be. Now, just by looking at it pretty quick, I can see that it's probably going to be the gray part here in the hand. So the other thing I got to remember is that I'm going to be having a patch that is this size. So I don't want to get too detailed in here. That's a problem with zooming in all the way. Like, I could get super detailed, I could put fingernails on here, but when you look at it at 100%, you're not going to see that. Especially once it's a fully embroidered piece. It's gonna be very bulletproof right here, super thick, and it's just gonna be very messy. So in this case, I'm probably just gonna do a tatami fill and then use run stitches to make my details. So that is what I'm actually going to do. I'm gonna select this guy and just going around. And then bring it back that way. So that's my hand. So if I fill it in, that's what you're gonna see. I'll play with the stitch angle a little bit later once I have the full jet done. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move to my next gray fill area. So the next one I would say is probably gonna be this wheel, the hub of the wheel. So I'm going to take my run stitch and I'm going to run it down to here. I'm going to grab my closed shape again. And fill that. Don't exactly like how I did that there, so I'm just going to hit Shift to undo or change a straight or a square node into a circular node. And I don't need that one because that's just going to be too many needle points in one spot. And I'm going to set that to a fill. And then I'm going to go back to my run tool. I'm going to bring it back out. And then this is where I would go to my next shape. So my next one is actually probably going to be the main body of the jet. So I'm going to run back up here and I'm going to do this section real quick. Okay, so Jeff asked if this is going to be a 100% filled patch. It is not. Normally I do, but this one is not going to be, just so I can save some time and not have to spend a lot of yellow thread on this design. So that's that shape. I'm going to set that to a fill. And then I'm going to go to the aft of the jet. So I'm going to do another run stitch. I'm going to come off the bottom here. I'm just going to run all the way to the back. And I'm going to fill this section in now. And then this, the wing and the aft wing are going to be embroidered on top along with the fuselage here, or the engine. Which is kind of ironic because there's only one engine on here and this is a 4-engine jet. So, I mean, technically this jet can fly with one engine, but it's not going to be fun. I need to go in a little bit more. And this is pretty much straight here, so I'm just going to go into a more of a straight fill or straight line. Come back down here. And then that is my next shape. I'm going to make that a fill. So now the next thing I can do is I'm going to do the engine. So I'm going to go and grab a run. I'm going to bring it to there. And then that's the shape for the engine. So the nice thing about me using the same color for the lower portion of the fuselage of the aircraft is I can just simply grab my run tool, and I can just come off of the patch, or not the patch, in this case my shape is the object or the engine, and I can just match the stitch angle of my fill here, and I can kind of hide my stitch in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hide it like that. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more, but something like that, it should be fairly unnoticeable, if that's even a word. I think it is. Okay, there's that object. I'm going to fill that. And I'm probably going to be changing these to a different stitch angle, at least so that they pop out a little bit more, because right now you can't even tell that that's an engine. A satin like that, that's not going to, like, that would look a lot better with a cutout for the actual inlet of the engine. But if I go ahead and measure this, that's a pretty long satin stitch, so that would become pretty loose over time, and if it gets caught on things, you gotta remember these patches are gonna have Velcro on the back, so the hook of that will easily catch this and tear that up, because when we take off our patches off our uniform, we just kind of throw them on a pile, so they tend to stick together. So I'm just trying to think a little bit more about that when I digitize this. So I'm going to do the aft wing, or the horizontal stabilizer. There's that. And now that I got that, I'm just going to come in here and do the arm. So I'm going to start here. So the bicep is pretty pronounced, unlike mine. So I'm going to start on this part, the shoulder part, go to the bicep, and then do the forearm. So, and I might actually even skip the forearm and go to the hand and then come back and do the forearm just to layer it a little bit better. So here we go. So there's the shoulder. Then I'm going to run it down and here comes my puppy. Too bad my door's shut. Okay, there's the bicep. And then we're going to run down to the hand, or the fist. And the reason I'm not doing the forearm right away is because I'm using the texture that the thread is going to give me, and I'm using that to kind of help sculpt the anatomy of this fist. So now I got that part. I'm going to run it right there. You don't have to do these little runs. I just do them because then I can make sure that I'm moving my ties. So that's the crude outlining of the jet for the bottom of the fuselage. So the next part I'm going to do is going to be the white. So I got two sections of white. I got the UHF antennas up here and the part of the landing gear, and then the rest of the upper half of the fuselage. Needs more push-ups. I agree. I do need to start doing them again soon. But that's a project for a different day. So the order of this doesn't exactly matter. My biggest thing when I'm doing pathing for this is I know that my machine is going to have to tie in. So if I tie in down here and do this and then run up here, that's going to get pretty thick, or the machine is going to tie in somewhere randomly. So I can tie in up in this area that I'm going to hide it in, and then I would be able to run down there. But in this case, because I already digitized the gray so that I can layer it, I can actually tie in on the wheel, and then that would work for me. And if I trust my embroidery machine and my digitizing skills, I would be able to path a line going all the way up through here, around the edge, and then into it. Whether or not I think I can hide that underneath my border, I don't think I will in this case, because I'm just going to be doing a triple run on the border, and then for smaller details like this is going to be a single run along with that there. So I am going to have to do a trim, but that's not that big of a deal. The other thing to look at would be, are you even going to see that? Let me get rid of shapes. So I can't see it when I have it set to 100, but I can guarantee that if I'm holding the patch in front of me, I would be able to see that white. So I'm not just going to substitute it for a gray and try to hide the fact that I'm not putting white there. So I'm going to tie in on the wheel, move up here, and then finish out back in the wheel, because the wheel is going to cover that. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select white. Bring it there. I'm going to bring my shapes back. Okay, so I got my white line. I'm going to do the shape really quickly. Make that a fill. And I'm going to set my start there. I'm going to make this one start here, and it exits underneath the tire, so that's good. So the next one is I'm going to do the vertical stabilizer as a separate object, and then move into the antennas, and then move into the top part. So and in case you're wondering, this is not how a plane actually looks. This would be a weird one to fly on. would not be very aerodynamic with the massive biceps. But I'm sure none of you are wondering that. It's just my ramblings. So now I got the antennas. I'm not going to curve them. I'm just going to make them a basic shape. I'm going to fill it, set it like that. And make it just a little bit taller and more pronounced. I think that's good. Then I will bring it over here, do that one, and I'm just going to duplicate it. There we go. And now I'm going to figure out exactly where I want to start my design, or my shape. So I'm just going to move it all the way back here. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm probably going to adjust this so that this gray is going to be stitched on after I do white. I don't normally like having to do a color trim again, but one more color change isn't the end of the world. Unless you have a butterfly. So here we go. I'm going to do this large shape. I'm going to try to use as few node points as I can. The more you use, the more jagged it will become. So and I'm just going to follow around this shape. Yeah, the more I'm looking at it, I might actually do white first and then go to gray. Just because of the biceps in this here. So we're actually we'll go ahead and do that. Let's then actually get rid of one trim. Okay, so let's go back and figure that out. So if I just go ahead and simply move this guy down, we can see that this trim is not going to work out very well right there. So we'll go ahead and delete that one. That one is not going to work there because it's covering our landing gear, but the wheel and the engine are going to be touching, so I can simply just move that at that angle. Same for this one. And then I think I can leave that one. That one should be fine. Let's see if I can change some of this stitch angles. Where's my other one? Right there. Probably have to play with that a little bit more later. Don't know if I want to do satin. I mean, I can. It doesn't look that bad. The start and stop points for that do need to be adjusted. So we'll leave it like that for now. And my doggy's here. Okay, So I got the nose done. My wife decided to walk in. She's like, "Are you talking to someone?" It was just a little bit amusing, her trying to get the dog out of here. I was watching that. I was a little distracted. Alright, so I got the nose done. That's where I'm going to start for my outlining. Because then my tie-in is going to be hidden there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to probably do the fist first. I'm going to run it off, and I got to keep it on the border of my gray fill here. And then, let's see, exactly how do I want to do this? So normally I would use a triple run, but I might even just be placing the stitches manually a couple times. And again, I'm not going to be able to see this detail. This is going to be, the embroidery machine is going to convert this into one stitch if I did this, because it's just so small. So I can just pretty much skip ahead and make it the shape that I want to see. And then, because I'm doing the outside border, like I said, I'm going to be doing a triple run, so I'm just going to run back over this 3 times. And then into the center. And then that's just going to be 2 because it's not as, doesn't need to be as pronounced. And then move over to this finger. And then I'm going to do, I'll just go around here, break that finger apart. What happened there? Yep. So I got this line coming off here that's gonna kind of bug me a little bit, so I'll fix that after when I close the shape off. And then do the run for this side. And then I'll run it up in this section for this angle. So that's what my fist is going to look like. There are better ways that you could do this too. For instance, you could do a satin fill for each finger. I'm just not sure if I'm going to see that with that tiny of a detail. The beauty of it, since I'm digitizing it myself, if I don't like how it turns out on the embroidery machine, I can just hop in here and turn these into solid or separate shapes that are satin, and I can throw it right back on the machine. If you're trying to save time, you could just solely stitch out these 2 shapes on your embroidery machine to see if you like how this looks, and if it is, then you merge that into your design. It's a pretty good way to test to see if you like it. So the next one, so I got the nose. I'm going to move the nose after this maybe. So I'm going to do this run right here. So I know that I exited my run right there. I'm just going to bring it down here and then bring it back up. So there's that run, and then I'm going to, let's see, go up the bicep. I'm going to convert that into a, like that. Bring it back up and all the way around. Actually, we'll start or stop right there, and then we'll go and finish this segment off. And then I'm going to go around again. Bring it back. And then go back up, do this crease. And then I'm going to do this section. So the reason I'm doing 3 passes is because I want to make it a little bit thicker. So if I do just one single satin run, it's going to be pretty thin. But if I do a combination, if I step it up, it'll become either twice as thick. And then if you lay it directly, if you lay 2 threads that are right next to each other, and then you take a third one and you run it right over the same spot, it's kind of like when you stack logs. It's just going to fall into the center of it, and it's just going to give it a little bit more definition. So I could use the triple run tool, but I'm trying to do this all in as few runs and trims as I can, so that's why I'm kind of manually doing it. And I'm going to go back to my start point. The problem with doing it this way is you have to be pretty precise with your clicking. So this is where I'm going to sew out a sample, and I'm going to see exactly where I don't have it kind of overlapping the way I want, and then I'm going to go in and I can adjust each of these nodes to where I want it. So if there's like a spot also where, say I want this part right here, this arc to be a little thicker, I can spread these nodes out so that they're more in a line instead of in a little cluster, and it'll make that a little bit of a thicker, a sweeping arc. And so for this guy, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go like this. I don't know if that's going to be, that might be too close. So I'm going to deviate from the artwork a little bit, because that's not going to be as pronounced as I'd like it to be. So I'm going to change my angle there a little bit. And do it like this. Okay, and now it's a final run around like that. So like this is actually an example of that I'm going to do. So I have my first line going in here, but I also want to show that the thumb is like spread apart. So if I just do it like back like that, it's going to just be two threads. If I move it off a little bit, just like that, I could bring it back down and then like this. So it'll kind of feather it out a little bit. It's not going to be much, but you'll see it when you actually embroider it. And I'm going to fix the shape a little bit. Yeah, see, like right here, if I leave this, that's going to get kind of thick on the actual sew out. So one of these I'll have to play around with some of the nodes. One of them I probably did a left versus a right click. Just like that happened there again. So I'll just play around with that a little bit later, just trying to get the rough design figured out. And if I want to make this come to less of a point, like right here, I can bring it all the way out and I can kind of chisel it a little bit. So I'm going to go spread a little bit of ways, and then I'm going to bring it back, and instead of going all the way to this point, I'm going to stop it maybe right back here, and then just like that. So that's going to show a pretty big definition between the fist and the forearm. And then I'm just going to finish this off. So pathing this, I didn't do this as well as I should have, because now I'm going to have a trim right here. Other thing I could do is I could bring it back up through here. So I don't think I did the same shape. Let's see. Yep, that was the same one. So the reason I mentioned that is because I finished my shape right there, but I already had 3 here. So what I was wondering about, that's going to be fine. It'll just be a little bit thicker. One more strand won't hurt it. And my train of thought is leaving me. But yeah, so now I got it back up here. Let's move on. That thought's gone already. So I'm going to move it up to the eyes. And again, I said I'm going to make this nose later in the sequencing. So now I got it up there, and I'm going to make my branching here. Move that there. So now I'm going to do this segment so I don't have a separate trim. And I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to put a mark there. and then I'm going to bring it into this segment. So this is the same thickness, just maybe like 1 or 2 points less than my border here, but I do not want to put a 1 millimeter satin there at all. So I'm going to have to fill that in a little bit using some of my run stitching. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to bring it like that. So now I got 4 branches here. And I'm probably going to bring that node down a little bit and it'll kind of taper it. And then I'm going to move down to here. And just like that. So there's kind of a misconception right here. When you're doing digitizing, you're not trying to make it look good on the screen, because right now it looks like there's going to be a really big gap here in the embroidery file. If you can remember, your design is like this big, so your thread is a lot thicker than this single line that I'm dragging around. So I forgot the actual thickness of the 40 weight thread, but I'm sure Jeff will throw that in the chat if he's watching right now, and say how thick it is, since he has that memorized. And so we will be able to fill that out just by how I'm placing my stitches. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to go back down again, and then I'm actually going to go down full length. I'm going to come off and do this shoot. And then I'm going to come up and do this segment. And then I will finish this piece. And I think I'm actually going to bring my eye in like this. So that should be all of my eye here. And again, I can always adjust the actual individual node points later on. So I'm not too worried about that. The thing I hate about all of the embroidery software that I've tried so far is that I haven't found one where you can end a run stitch, select that, and then continue and pick back up on that. And then once I get here, I'm going to go back. And then do my outline of the antennas. And I'm just going to do one just so that it breaks it up from the background a little bit. And then continue back with my shapes. And then bring bring it up the vertical stabilizer. Okay, and there's that part, and I'm going to bring it back towards the other piece. And that should be that part. So that's just the top run. Now I can either stop it and then do another line segment, or I can just keep going. And in my case, I'm going to stop it just so that I have it saved. And you can see that's what it looks like, and I'd say that looks pretty good. The reason I didn't do the pupil of the eye coming from the top is because I didn't want the machine to kind of make it look like a Z. So I'd rather just have it come off the front. Also, I would say that's kind of how they do anime characters. So that kind of fits the look of this jet. You can see I followed a shape here. So I'm going to change this from a fill like that. I'm going to grab this cluster and bring it over like that. And this white will pull in based on your pull compensation. So that's why I'm not trying to make the screen look good. I'm trying to make the actual design be good. So now I have my my pathing is set up. It's going to do the fist first. It's going to start right there. It's going to do this arm, bring it back to here, up here, do this shape, and it's going to end right here. There's going to be a little red cross right there. So now I can do my next segment, and if I look at it, what I'm going to do is I can run around or runs twice. Back like that. Yep, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go around it like this. Then I'm going to bring it back. And then I'm going to go this way. I'm going to overlap it just a tiny bit. Come back up here. And then go back down. And then I'm going to go out to the seam. And I'm going to actually triple this up, or not triple, quadruple. No, that's not the right one. I just want this one to be a little bit thicker. It's also going to hide the seam a little bit more between the white and the gray. So this section is all, or this is already 3. This is 2. This is 2. I'm going to do the outside again, and then I'll bring it back. That is going to make it a little bit thicker. That's fine though, because it's the outer edge. I'd rather have the outer edge be thicker than the inner. just like that. I'm going to bring my design back, and then I'm going to flow down to here. Let's see, because I still got to do the wheel and the tire, so we're gonna path that in here too. Okay, so I got my border. What we're going to do here is I'm just going to do, this is just going to be a double. This one is going to be a triple. And then I'm going to stop it down here inside my tire and apply it. So that's how we get that. And I'm going to do the actual shape of the tire. So if we fill this in, and then I'm going to digitize a hole. And then hit enter. And I'm going to go ahead and see what that looks like in a satin. Yeah, see, that does not look very good. So this looks pretty ugly. I'm actually going to increase the size of the hub a little bit, and then I'm going to increase the size of the opening. I'm just holding Control to select multiple nodes, and there we go. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger again. Oops, that's rotate. Come on. There we go. So now the tire, it looks pretty flat, one-dimensional. So we're going to add a couple of run lines. And you can see, if I actually bring up the image here, I actually have a, what is this, like a herringbone or something? Or just a zigzag, double zigzag. I'm not sure if we're going to achieve that, but we can. Let's do it. Why not? So our we did our run and we stitched the tire. So where are we stopping? We can stop down at the bottom. So then I can bring it up. And we can bring it up to the top. So this is what I was talking about. You don't want to have too many nodes in. The more you have it, the less circular your shape will be. So this tire looks like it kind of is a little flat. That's also the way I actually did the vector. So it's not my fault here, but it's my fault there. So we're just going to go ahead and remove a few of the nodes. And we'll do that. I'm going to bring it back down. And I'm just going to come up here. We're just going to kind of do this zigzag a little bit. And then we'll go around the outside to do the border. Change that to a square node. we'll just run around the perimeter a couple times. That's a square. And once more, and because I want for shadowing purposes, I'm going to come back this way. So this way we'll have more definition than the front, which is perfect. And now we are at that shape. So let's see how that looks. So there's quite a bit of texture going on there. Not sure if that is going to work very well though. That is a 1mm stitch, so that's good at least. And would you believe it or not if I said that there's a digitizer calling me right now? We'll put them to spam. So, how ironic. So that's what our design looks like so far. And we're about an hour and 10 minutes in. So, someone who says that they can digitize in a matter of an hour turnaround, it's not exactly sure how good that is going to be. Make sure I save it so that when Hatch decides to crash, I'm good. It's not if Hatch decides to crash, when. So I'd say that looks pretty good so far. So now we got a few more shapes. We got this one. I don't think I'm going to be able to get there without it looking too weird. I might be able to do a little jump stitch there. We can see if we can, but I don't think that's going to happen. And also, I'm not going to do a different shape right here, most likely. I'm just going to do a circle, and I just moved something. We're just going to do a circle run with a black thread, just to break that up. So we ended right here. I'm going to go up and around. I don't think I mentioned this, but this patch is going to be sewn on Gunnolds polyester twill. It's what I like a lot. It has a pretty dense weave, so I'm able to capture a lot of detail without the stitches sinking into the patch. Or not the patch, the material. Like if you use something a lot less dense, like outdoor fabric or something, you're going to get a little bit more like stepping in your satin columns and stuff, if that makes sense. I think that was kind of a bad way of describing it, but now I'm going to move in, do this section. So if you're watching right now, I'm also doing a complete patch tutorial where you'll be able to make the EMB Nerd Patches tutorial patch, and I'll show you exactly how to do all of it. There's also a special promotion associated with that I think the group will find pretty interesting. So follow up for that. I think that's all I'm going to do for there. Let's go ahead and change this stitch angle, break it up a little bit. Since I'm just doing this shape, I'm just going to duplicate it, outline black. And I'm just going to hit triple run. That one was that simple. And there is someone biking out in front of my front door, and the dog is going nuts. So, good thing he's trying to protect us from bicycles. So, that is the patch so far. Next thing we could do is the kangaroo. I'm actually going to do the text, just because this is already an hour and a half long-ish. And I figure text is probably a little bit more important than the kangaroo. Since the kangaroo, I would be doing the exact same way I did the jet, but the text is a completely different process. So when I did vectorize this, I chose the bond schrift font, and that's a true type font, so I'm not too confident that it's going to turn out very well. But I guess we'll see if the true type will work. If not, I am able to change it to a block type font as well. And my PMs are blowing up. Okay. So where is lettering? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my text. Okay, and I'm going to do the any shape. And now if I select off of this, I'm going to grab my measuring tool, which is M, and I can see that my text is pretty much 7 millimeters tall. So instead of me trying to just keep guessing what it is, I can just go straight to the source and bam, that's that. So now if I'm smart, I'll keep my alignment center justification, and then I'm going to hit H. I'm going to add a point, a curve point in the center. Excuse me. I'm going to grab my two outer ones, and I'm just going to bend them down, and then I'm going to bring them in, and then I'm going to play around with it. So I'm also going to throw a ruler in here. I'm not too worried about my text coming out beyond what I originally have in the vector, so that's fine for me as long as the stitching comes out great. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. Let's make that white. I'm going to bump this up a little bit. So the next thing you'll see here is that it's getting pretty close right here. I can only see two strands of 40 weight coming on. So what I'm going to do, man, I'm losing my mind here. I'm not too worried about that because my green is going to extend, and when I cut the patch out, it's actually going to be a little bit oblong, and my marrow won't cover it. So the patch is going to come out kind of ovally. This is an extreme exaggeration, but because the way this green thread is going to lay, it's going to keep pushing the thread and spreading it out like a tablecloth, and then this direction, the left and right, the width, it's going to pull it in because the thread, when it punches in here, comes out, punches in here, it's going to pull that fabric a little tighter. So then it's, nope, that was the wrong shape. It's going to kind of do that. So that's why I'm not too worried about that. The other thing I could do is I could just simply be a little bit, live on the cautious edge, and I could just change the size of my text, which I will do as well. I'll just make it a 6.5. Now I know it's good. The thing I would have to say is I don't like that spacing there. Whoa, what is going on? So I'm going to do something called kerning, I believe is the proper term for it. I'm going to select these dots and I'm going to move them in. Tour is all pretty good, but so if I bounce back out, you can see that there's kind of a space here. It looks kind of weird. That's because it's not actually calculating the proper distance for optical balance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this over and bring it in. And I'm just going to move them in. So Adobe Illustrator is able to adjust this for me. So that's kind of what I'm going off of. I'm going off of what Illustrator set it to. Same thing here. Did I spell it wrong? No, it's just that the whole word is off. Okay, so then I will select all of these guys, bring them over, and select all of them, slide them over. And I'm going to bring this ruler up, and the letters both line up with that segment, so we are good. And Australian still looks a little weird, so I'm going to space, I'm going to bring the alien, I guess, part. I'm just going to bring that into the R a little bit. There we go. I'd say that looks a little bit better. I'm going to split the I, A, N apart. There we go. And that's how I do the lettering. And then it's the same concept. I'm just going to, it's pretty much just changing the angle. So WC 135. Bring that up. I'm going to center it like this. That center. And there you go. This was block font. So now if I actually go to this one, I can kind of look at the letters, see if they're actually going to turn out decent. Usually your M's are where it's going to get really bad. Let's see if this font works for M. This one's actually okay. Some of them is just, you just have to look at it and see if the stitching makes sense. So that's the overall patch so far. There's a couple things I didn't do, like if you're doing a applique style patch or applique applique, you would have to do a placement stitch and a tack down stitch. I'm not doing it that way. I am just embroidering on the polyester twill from Gunold with a 2.5 ounce cutaway stabilizer. And so I'm going to be doing the cutting after the fact, and I'm also actually not going to be having a satin fill. This is actually just going to be a single run like this, and then I will marrow the rest. So my marrow machine is what's going to be doing the satin border. It'll save me a lot of time on my embroidery machine. Like if I take this however many stitches, it's 1700 stitches, 1800. That's roughly 3 minutes on the speed of my machine. It's a little less than that, but I can do that significantly faster with my Marrow machine, and I can cut it out using my laser. So I can get each patch the exact same shape and the size is all the same. So that's why I'm going to do it that way, and it saves me a lot of time. So the next thing I could do is I have this green border and the jet. I could cut out part of that, but I want to show you something. 18,930 is my starting stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knife it, and I'm just going to do kind of a crude outline. So the reason you would do this is for two reasons: one, to save stitches, and two, to make it not as thick. So I'm going to delete that and see if I can select this green and that green. I'm pretty sure I added 10 stitches by doing that. So that's what I mean. If I bring this to the bottom, you can see that yes, I did cut it out, but now it has to do some extra running to get and actually fill in them shapes. So in the case of the jet, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to undo the knife. And I'm going to say the same thing about the kangaroo. I'm not going to knife it because the only place I could really knife it is just around the backside of the kangaroo. I wouldn't knife it here because I have a sliver of green showing. And in order to make the patch actually look really good in person, is I'm going to split the tail and move it a little bit away from this border so that you can see the green behind it. It'll give it a little bit more depth to the patch. It'll make the kangaroo look more lively. So that's the beauty of doing the digitizing yourself. And when you understand how a embroidery machine actually works, and you have a little bit of creativity or artistic taste, you can kind of make adjustments like that. So in my embroidery file, like I said, I'm going to add a little bit of extra spacing there for the green, and then the tail won't be as pointy because I'm pretty sure that that's a little too pointy. But other than that, that's pretty much that for the patch. So that's what it looks like so far. There's a couple other things we can do, like pathing. So we could move the red before, and then have the outer come in and then go in underneath the jet, start here, go around, do that shape. That'll get rid of one trim. But that's a lot higher level, more advanced pathing skills. What I did here is more of a moderate. So let's see, should I continue doing the live and do the kangaroo, or should I stop it here? What do you guys think? Doesn't look like there's too many people watching, so I think in this case I'm going to stop it here. I have another project that I actually need to work on really quick, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Continue. Okay, I'll continue. I'm a procrastinator, so I will procrastinate on the other project. So the next step I'm going to look at is, since I already have the text done, I have everything done but the kangaroo is just the exact same thing as the jet is. I need to figure out exactly what my lowest and most background piece is going to be. So I'm going to say the background pieces, or the back layer, is going to be this arm, this foot, and the tail. So I feel like I'm going to do the tail first, mainly because I talked about leaving the green, and I'm going to forget it if I don't do that. So let's go ahead and do the tail. I'm just starting here, going to bring it around, and there's a, the tool doesn't show right now. There's a little trick that I do when I'm digitizing a point like this. When I first started, I would do this, and I would actually leave a deliberate point. I can't move my cursor up to the tool, but if you look where I have the cursor and you go up, there is a corners button, and it has like an upside down T on it. That is supposed to clip the corner off. I pretty much just always manually clip the corner. And then, like I said, I'm going to leave a little bit of green space. That's probably not going to be enough. Yeah, see, that's not enough. So I'll end up moving the entire tail over, and I'm probably going to thicken the tail just a little bit, but not too much. So and of course that's the wrong color. We're going to go ahead and just do a brown. Again, I'm not going to pick the correct brown from the vector. I think if I did this right, I selected, if I actually, oop, that's an object. Okay, I don't have my Gunold color swatch. So in Adobe Illustrator, I created a color swatch for all of the threads that I have, so that way when I do vector something, I can select from colors that I have on my shelf so that I can actually produce it that day. And if I don't have it, I can use the Gunold complete color scheme. I have a guide on how to do that yourself if you're interested. That's on the EMB Nerd website, but that's for a different day. So I'm going to go ahead and move this tail over. So I'm just clicking and dragging and selecting all of these nodes. And that does not look like a tail anymore, so I'm going to thicken the round up a little bit. And I'd say that looks quite a bit better. So I'm going to get rid of this point here, bring that in, bring that one down, get rid of that point. So now I have that little green sliver there. Probably still not going to see it as much as I'd like to, especially once I put the border on with the run, but that's fine. And so now I'm going to move to we'll do the foot. So again, the same way I did the arm is this hand, I just did it all in one shape. Yes, you could do that. You could play with your stitch angles and your starting and stop to have it stop in the center here. I'm just going to follow this layered method that I did for the arm. So I'm going to bring it up and do the, I don't know, it's not the chuck, but the hawker or whatever of the leg. So I'm going to digitize that section. And finish that there. And then I'm going to digitize the actual foot. There we go. I'm going to select both of these and set them to a fill and that. I'm also going to make this brown right away. And I'm going to set my default color to brown now. So right here is where I'm going to do more of that spacing of the runs. When I go over it a couple times, I'm going to keep offsetting it to give it a little bit more depth to the foot, or a dimension I should say. So now I finished that one. It's going to end down here more, so I'm going to click it right there. I'm going to run up to the, nope, I went a little far. Run up to the arm and digitize closed shape. There we go. Make that a fill. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide this green and this grouping of the border. So there we go. Next step would probably be the actual body of the kangaroo. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to move it up to the top so I can run it down to the bottom, and then I'm going to do this leg as a separate object. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm actually going to digitize it backwards. So I'm going to resequence it after I do this. So I'm going to digitize the leg. And here we go. Get rid of that so I can see around it. Like I said, I'm not going to make that a point. So that's going to be my leg. I might make it a separate piece, give it an ankle. We'll see. So then I'm going to try to do another layer. And I guess a little background of why I'm doing it like this instead of just filling in the entire body like this one massive shape is so there's a piece that Eric Campbell did, and he had a lion that he had to do, and it was just one flat solid object, and sure, he could have just digitized it like it was and it probably would have satisfied the customer. But if you go a little bit beyond and you think of the anatomy and exactly how light would reflect and the actual 3D dimensions of it, if you can incorporate that in, you'll get a lot more pop out of the patch or any embroidery in general. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. It's the same thing I did with the arms. So instead of just doing one solid fill, I'm now going to have multiple layers, and when it's actually stitched out, the light's going to reflect and it's going to show this crease. I don't have a line there to pretty much shove it in your face and say, hey, there is an angle here or a different change of a shape. Now it's just now it is I just got a weird PM. It's going to be using the actual thread to show that. So the next part is I got to figure out exactly how I want to do this part. So I think I'm going to just start right here. I'm just going to work around backwards. And I'm going to come up to the glove, inside the glove, and over, and I'm going to come up like this. And we'll try that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so it's not that bad. Then the next thing I'm going to have is the body here, and then I'm going to have the neck. So I'm going to do the body. I'm going to just probably need my tool selected. I'm going to flow around the edge. Now, ideally, I would probably do the body before I do the leg. So I'm going to go ahead and extend it underneath it. And I don't want to bring my point right here, because the way that's going to end is I'm going to have one tatami fill, two tatami fills, and then a third one, all focusing, all of their endpoints are going to lap right there, and it's just going to get really thick there. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit and then up and around. And same thing here. I just placed it right on the edge of that fill. So I'm actually not going to do the neck separate. There we go. Okay, so let's see. So I got tail, and I'm just using tab to go between my objects. That part, that one running up to the arm. So then I'm going to do a new stitch, and I'm going to have him run now that I think about it, this leg should be above that piece too. So I'm going to run down here, do that one. So I'm going to select the arm, this character, that one, resequence it. So now if I look at these, it's going to enter there, enter there, exit here, enter, and my exit is up there for some reason. So then I'm going to move it from there. What if I put it right there? We'll bring it let's try moving it over here. And then we'll make this one the next one. Looks like a fox. Okay, so move that one up. That one's going to end over here. And then I'm going to do a run stitch down to the end of the foot. So it's going to go like this, that. And it's going to end where? Right there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a run tool, and I'm just going to run it all the way around so that I get up to the head, and I'm going to go straight for this ear, since that's going to be behind that line. turn that into a fill. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do this color. I would be able to. I know I have it. This is the third patch that this guy had, and they're all similar. They all had the kangaroo on it. The other ones I did not do this color in the ear, mainly because the actual spot was going to be too small. Let's see. I'll probably pull one up pretty quick. Where is it? Sniffer. Here we go. So this one here, I did not do this fill. I just made it the same color as the brown. And then there is this other one. I think this one. This one we did not change either. I just made it the same color, and it's just I just left the border on it. So yeah, these were all from this cruise morale patches. So this is just the third and final one. So next part is going to be, we'll do the head. So I'll move it down here. So I just did that line, and now I'm going to do this. And I'm going to modify this shape. I'm going to make this go straight across. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. Make that a fill. And then I'm going to run it up to the tip. And then bring it like that. And that should be all of the body parts to the kangaroo. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the white in the eyes, the tongue, and the gloves. Now the tongue I'm a little bit more cautious about because it's going to be pretty small. Probably just going to do a satin, small satin fill. But I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes first. I'm going to get rid of a few of these nodes just so that it's less, it's a little bit better. And I know I just duplicated the pupils, or not, yeah, the pupils are duplicated too, I believe. But select that. The next problem would be is that that's going to get pretty thick. So what I might end up doing is carving a hole, but I'm not sure if I'm really going to need to in this spot. So we'll leave it like this, and when I do my test stitch, then I'll be able to determine if I need to. Because what I'm going to have is a stabilizer, polyester twill, that's 2 layers. Then I'm going to have the brown, and then the white, and then the pupil. So that's what, 5 layers. That's going to get pretty thick. So we'll see if that'll work. But next one, I'm going to do the mouth. So I'm going to kind of get rid of a little bit of the definition, and I'm going to make it a little oversized. I'm going to turn my stitch angle to vertical and to a satin and red. The gloves on the actual design they are indeed a different color. They're more of a maroon instead of just a regular red. Depending on however many colors we have in the design. I don't think we have that many yet. Colors, 6. I try to keep it under 8 colors if I can, so we might actually make that a separate red. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Just looking at the gloves, if I want to split them apart at all. I don't think I'm going to in this case. And by that, I mean I'm not going to do the way I've been doing the arms and everything. Okay, so there's that shape. Let's see, so that's a kind of a pinkish. How big is this? It's not that big, but I don't like that the trim or the jump stitch. So the other thing I could do is if I do split it, let's go ahead and I'm just going to knife it. Yes, it doesn't look too bad, but I'll work on that a little bit later. We'll just see, just trying to get the generalized shapes figured out. A lot of that, the shapes is finding the hard part, or the hard part is finding what shapes you're going to use, and then changing things like your actual stitch types and your fills is later on when you're trying to get the actual look you're trying to achieve. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to do the other boxing glove. I like to go through the patch, get it all done, so like when I zoom out I see it and it's like, ah yeah, I made that. And then spend some time and make it look even better. Because then I have I'm looking at a large picture of something that I actually made versus spending almost 2 hours on and only having one object done. So select this color again. Okay. So we have pretty much everything done there. I'm going to, I don't think I'm going to add that color in. It's just one more color. If I want to, I can do it later. So it's not that big of a deal. But so now I'm going to do the outlines. So I'm going to start on the tail, same way I did it before. If I'm pathing this, and if I like zoom out and I look, I would be tempted to path it so that I'm doing all of the border of the jet and the kangaroo and this outer one all in the same shot. But the problem you'll have with that is if I sew the jet, then sew the kangaroo, and then do the border for the jet and then the kangaroo, the pull from the kangaroo is going to affect this and your stitching isn't going to line up exactly where you want. So I try to do the outline immediately after I do the object, just to kind of prevent that. Unless if you have enough overlap like the satin stitch, that's another instance. So now I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to do the runs. So I'm going to select black as my primary color, select the open, and again, since I'm not following this shape, I'm just going to follow the line that I have here. And let's see. Debating doing this in a different angle, because I can actually start it down here, get this design, then run up, but we'll leave it. And I'm going to stop that there, hit O to select it, and I'm just going to make it a triple run so I don't have to do the work myself. And then I'm going to run up. And then, let's see, run out. That's 3. I'm not going to go all the way to this point. I'm just going to stop it right here because I want it to thin out, but I want it to be thicker here to show that this section of the body is different from this section. So that's why I stopped it here, and then I'm bringing it back. And then I'm just going to, since yes, this is curving, but I'm not going to put a node here and then here because that distance is only, where is it? This is 0.4. So I could technically do that, but it's essentially putting the needle right on top of the needle. So I'm just going to do a straight line and then bring it back out. Okay. Then I'm going to follow this up, and yes, this is going to touch, but I'm just going to select the nodes later, so I'm not too worried about that, and I will move them after the fact. And we'll do one more. And then I will bring it up to there, and then run it back down. How many lines? I don't think I did. Yeah, I did 3. It's the problem with doing this manually. You gotta remember things, and my memory is shot. Okay, so I have that section done. I could break it off and go into the glove now, and that is actually what I'm going to do. So if I zoom out, get a drink of water. I'll show you what I was going to do here. Just select them. I want more, but not these guys. And then I'm just going to drag it down like that. We're going to move this cluster down too. There we go. So that's how I fixed that. I also don't like how pointy that got. So there we go. Fix that. So I ended there. I'm going to start my new run. And I'm just going to follow around. And because I want this point to be noticeable, I'm going to extend it past my original lines. just do these highlights. Okay, so that's one trip around the glove. So now I'm going to go around again. And that's 2. And I'm going to back it around the other way, because that'll put me where I started and where I left off with my border around the kangaroo. There was one there. And I'll place it right there. And then I can pick back up on it. Actually, I'll just make that a triple run. Just like that. Okay, so let's see. So I can go back up and come around here. That's what I'll do. So I'll start there, bring it down, and I'm gonna extend it just a little bit. And then, because I don't want this to be 6 thick, I do have to come back through and do my triple pass. Okay, there's that. And you can see it's thinner here, but it's thicker there. That's what I want. I just want this to show that it's separated, so it doesn't look like they have double neck or whatever. Then I'm going to continue around. Oops, that's supposed to be a square. So I'm going to go back around again the opposite way. So this outer one is thicker. And then like that. Then back like that. I'm actually going to undo this. So I'm going to bring it back in. I'm going to do this inside really quick, because then I don't have to do a trim at all. Okay, there we go. And then I'm doing, this side was curved points for the most part. This is straight because I'm trying to make it look more jagged to simulate hair. And now I got that ear done. I can exit the ear, do this side of the head. Let's see, so I want this to be a little bit, what is going on? Left click. I want this to be a little bit thicker right there. So I'm just gonna mix up left and right clicks, and then, let's see, just like that. Just do this part. No. Okay, so that is that. Really, another step I could have did is up here I could have went through the eye, went through here, did that, but I'm fine with doing a trim. So I'm going to end it there. Kind of looks like Rudolph. Okay, so now I got to do this next part. Bring it back up because I'm going to jump over to the textures. Then exit them. Okay, so this is going to be 3. This is 2. Make this 3. And then I can go ahead and do the arm and then the glove. So I'll go ahead and enter the arm. And here I'm going to do 2 because I want to make it look like it's further away. So I'm going to make it just 2. And then I'm going to bring it up this one. And then this is where I'm going to do the glove. So the glove is going to come up like this. And I'm just going to be doing two all the way around. And again, like I said, just 2. So I'm going to follow around. I could do 3, but like I said, I want it to look like it's further away, since it's kind of in the background. Oh, I never did the details. So the way I did that there, it's going to look like it's just sweeping around. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extend this past so that it looks like it's a separate line. And now I'm going to continue. And now, like I said, I only had one going in. Got my one going out, so that makes it double. And that is that shape. Those are just 3 straight points. Since it's such a small distance, I don't need to do a right-click node. It's going to look rounded anyways, just by the shape of the black. So we'll do the foot here. We'll go back out. And I'm going to bring it down a little bit to kind of feather it more, make it thicker, just to show a little bit of shadowing. And then follow it up the foot. And then I'm going to do this part. So that's how I did that, just trying to make it a little bit thicker there, and then even thicker there. So then I'll bring it around more. I don't like that. Let's see. I need this part to just be thicker. So I'll just do it like that. And then this is going to be the fun one. So I need this part to look pretty thick. This is where I'm probably going to have to run a sample a few times until I get it to the right shape that I want. But I'm just going to keep going back and forth here until I get it to about the shape I want. And if I don't have the nodes close enough, then again I will just move them in. I'm going to undo one, and I'll do that on my way back around. Okay, and then I'll go backwards, and I will do it on this side. Bring it close to there, and now it's matched up. I think I already did 3 there. Yep, that's 4. That's only 2, so I actually got to go back around the other way. Once I get over here. So instead of going all the way to this corner, I'm just going to stop it right here, so I get that dimension there. This might be a little too thick, but we'll see. Unlike some other groups, I will definitely post the sew out of this. I don't think I'm going to provide the file though, because it's a customer design. So unfortunately. Okay, so this one I have 4 because I want it to be very well defined that it is not that shape. Okay, and that'll put me down there, and I will stop it there. There you go. So you can see that the bottom of the foot has quite a bit of thickness there, and that's what we were trying to go for. So the next part is going to be digitizing this shape. So I'm just going to follow up. And then chisel it out. There's so many shapes. So I just hit L to hide all the other ones so I can see just my current shape that I'm working on. Then I can hit L to bring everything back up again, so now I can see where my leg is. There we go. I'm going to bring it back up so I don't have to go back so far. And I'm going to add kind of a little bit of an angle in this stitch right here. And then I'm going to bring it back just before this point, just to make it a little bit thicker. And then that part's fine. And then I will go around it. So if you're still watching, kind of surprised, this has been quite a long live stream. Do appreciate it. Let's see, bring it out here. And I'm going to bring it back just so I don't have to, oop, that one needs to be a straight. How far did I go? That's only one, I think all the way back. I want the heel to be a little bit thicker, so I'm gonna try to do that a little bit. And that's a majority of the run. What is going on here? That's right. Yep. So now we got all of the border done on the kangaroo. Now we just got the face. So I have this, the cheeks, the outline of the mouth, and then the nose, and I also have the pupils and the outline of the eyes. So we're gonna go ahead. Now I don't want to start on the cheeks because then I'm gonna have the tie-in there. If I can hide the tie-in underneath a fill, that is what I'm gonna do. So I'm not gonna do the nose first, but I'm gonna do the tie-in. So it's gonna start there, and then run back in. Just like that. And then I'm gonna do the mouth. And I'm gonna go around once more. So there's another reason why going around twice is a good idea, because if I just do once and then I have an in and an out, it's going to be a lot more noticeable to see this line. Now if I have this at least as thick or thicker, I'm not going to really notice that. I'm going to just, my focus is going to go straight to this shape and then the nose. So the other thing is, when someone sees eyes on anything, it's pretty much the eyes that they look at. So you want to make sure the eyes look really well done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to digitize this border, and I'm going to have the eye jump in right there. And now I'm going to digitize the pupil. And I'm kind of doing an oval. There we go. So there's this method I could do, or I could do a different way. I can do a satin column, which we'll see what looks better. So I'm going to do like this. Let's see, this way, that way, then that way, there. Satin fill, that's a little too small. So we're just going to go ahead and leave this one. Start there, exit there. Have him come back out. Whoa, so many lines. Where's my artwork? There we go. Here we go. I'm failing. I'm just going to do the border of the eye. Exit back into the nose. And then I am going to come up here. We're going to leave it there, and I'm going to see if I can duplicate it. Yeah, that looks a little weird. So I'm going to change my min length. We'll do a 0.8. And I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Oh, that was the wrong shape. Right now it kind of looks like glasses, so that's why I'm changing the shape of it. What is that shape? Okay, so I'm going to move this to a stitch like that. There we go. And I'm going to move this in a little bit. Because remember, this white, it's going to expand this direction. So I'm going to try to select it, which I'm having difficulties. There it is. So I'm going to add a point there and a point there, bring this in, and then this one too. Just like that. So this is going to pull it in. That's going to get pulled in. That's going to get pulled in. This is going to get pushed out. So we should not have any visible white. You see it on the screen, but you should not see it on the actual sew out. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this. Oops. Duplicate these guys. Okay. Duplicate. Move it up. And I'm just going to see if I can flip it like. Okay, so I got that. So it's going to stop there. And I need to reverse the order. You know what? I'll just redigitize it, because it's not the right order. And then my start and stop isn't going to be where I want it. So I get it there. I'm going to go around again. Just debating if I want to have it come in from the side like this. Because I don't want him to look like he's cross-eyed. Although then again, it's the kangaroo that got beat up, so that actually would probably also contribute. So I'll do the circle, and then once I get that, I'll run it back out, around once more. There we go. Bring it back into the nose. And then I can do the digitizing for the nose. Okay. Let's see about stitch angles. I'll do that. Okay, so what was my stitch? So it's gonna start there, end there, start, end, start, end. It's gonna get moved down. Start there, end there, then the pupil. Then that, enter there, and there. And that's the end of the design there. We're going to have some issues with the mouth here as well. I'm actually going to adjust this. We're going to change the stitch length. Do that. And then I'm going to adjust this. There we go. Let's check this white. So again, we're going to have that same issue where it's going to pull it. So the other thing I could do too, actually, is I could run a white through here. So that way I don't have to trim between each white. That and then that. Set it to white. So now I'll do that pupil. I'll start there, end there, start, end, start, end. Now I'll do these quick little swirls. Fortunately, there's nothing really I can do about making these not have to trim. If you didn't, I mean, you can't really tell, but these are, I did straights because if I did a curved, it would pretty much negate that curve anyways because of how small it is. So that's the way I did that. I'm going to duplicate it. And then in Hatch, if I double click it, or click it once again, then I get these unfilled boxes. And then I can move and rotate the swirl. Turn that into a triple run. Not sure if there's one more in the original design. Nope. Okay, so that is pretty much the patch. I think I'm going to have some issues with this eye, or the eyes though, so I might have to do a little bit of work on them, but other than that, if I unhide all, you can see that is pretty much the entire patch. There's a couple things I said I'd do, like maybe adjusting some of the fills, whether they're going to be satin or not, adjust some of the angles. But for the most part, I think this would turn out as a pretty decent patch. I'm going to make these swirls just a bit bigger because they have a little bit more detail then. That one's a little too big. So yeah, if you notice, I changed it to gray instead of black, because if it was black, it kind of would just hide itself into this object here. So I don't really want to do it that way. Okay, let me look at the comments. Use a star for the pupil for under 1 millimeter, maybe. No, that is a good point. I never did measure that either. Let's see what the... Yeah, 1 millimeter. My comments are getting cut off on my monitor. Put it on the right, same as the other. So it looks like it's looking right. Yep, we can try that. Let's see. I don't really like how that looked anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that one. Let's see. So we got that. I'm just going to go delete those nodes. Put it on the right. just get a general star pattern figured out. Okay. So I'm not trying to make a star, just trying to fill it like it's a star. So I got that. That looks a little bit better, I would say. Also going to do a single run around the eyes this time. Come on, what is going on? I think that's actually quite a bit better. That was a very good tip by Ramona. What is... Go ahead and get rid of that. See, that's where you can tell if I make it a curved one, it's not going to complete that, because the way the actual machine is going to read it, it's not going to read this stitch, it's going to read this one. Because the software is automatically removing this short stitch run. So if I make it a point, it kind of forces it to do that. And if I zoom out, you're not even going to be able to tell the difference, really. Like, you can see the white disappear, but other than that. And then let's see, unhide all. Let's redo this. So I got not that shape. That one, that one, that one, then nose. Okay, so which one do you guys think is better? I would definitely personally go with the one that Ramona showed. And the beauty of it, we can just simply go like this and duplicate it, bring it over here. Except my pathing isn't going to be right. Oh wait, never mind. So that, then that, bam. I'll bring it out and then get rid of that point. I think that looks a lot better. I might have to add that to my tool belt from now on. Other than that, that's pretty much the patch. This is kind of unrelated, but there's a little trick that I found in Hatch. Is if you go into your background and display colors, you can choose pure cotton, and then I can pick a color, and I don't really like those. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. And yeah, that's really bright, but that's kind of what it would look like with the texturing. So I personally like that black, but I feel like if this one is black, it's kind of getting lost. I don't think it really looked lost on this picture because the border is not as thick, but here it's a lot thicker. That's where I could play around. I could go white, but that completely throws it off. So I think I'm just going to leave them black for the reason that it looks okay, and that's also what my client approved. So I think I'm pretty good. I got a few little things to go path through just to try to optimize it a little bit. But other than that, that's the complete patch. And then all I got to do is stitch it up and see how it looks. So I think that's where I'm going to end it. So if you have any other questions, you can always comment back on this or comment in the channel, and I'll definitely try to answer them. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.